I think for some teams it does matter the meta. Like Gumba's team, they don't have I don't think they have a lot of flexibility in supports. SSG is they were kind of on and off. I'll be honest. Like there were points where they were good and points where they were pretty bad. So we just like made it pretty obvious that we don't want like one trick comp. So in Korea, I mean they do that a lot.
I'm here with Vega, the North American champion of the OWCS, or one of the champions, of course, doing extremely well in the region with the Toronto Defiant. Welcome, and how hard was it really to win that season?
Uh, I think OWCS NA this I think this season was not too difficult. I think maybe next season will be a little more difficult. With M80, they're getting upgrades, and I think they're also going to be in Toronto. I'm pretty sure the Koreans, so they'll be off ping.
Oh, really? Is that something
Yeah.
that you guys finagled with them? Are you assisting them in any way?
No, no, I think it's just coincidental that they're going to Toronto. It's but yeah, I think it'll be a lot better when now it's Happy and Pelican,
For
Happy
sure,
Pelican, and then Lyre. I think them being off ping will make the series a lot more competitive.
for sure, for sure. Who gave you the most challenge, you would say, over the season? Also in scrims, everything in combined.
I think it's scrims. We were like in NA. I think we were rolling scrims pretty hard. I actually don't think any team was competitive with us in scrims besides maybe Timeless at one point, but that was like few scrims maybe. We actually scrimmed a lot of EU because of that. So I think the best team was maybe Ents like Gumba's team.
Hmm.
That team is very competitive with us. And I would shout out Twisted Minds. I think Twisted Minds are like really good at Sim Maga, but we haven't played them on a meta that wasn't Sim Maga, so I think it'd be interesting to see.
How do you manage the cross-regional scrims? Do you just like eh,
We do minimum latency, so
yeah,
we're playing like when I was at Northwood, it was like 130 ping. I think Lenny had 150, and then yeah, I mean we're all on ping. Usually it's I think now it'll be like 120 maybe, and then minimum latency at like 110. So it's pretty fine, but the issue with minimum latency is sometimes it's like a little buggy. The game doesn't feel too good, but I think it's always worth scrim across regions.
for sure. Now, I guess it makes sense to start before the season because I think you were in an interesting position because I mean you're kind of joining a team of Overwatch royalty, I would say. Even Sugar
Yeah,
Free
yeah.
has been around for forever and has been seen as one of the prodigies of the region. Then of course 3 Overwatch League champions most recently. How did you get approached by the Defiant for that position?
Uh, I think after Flash Ops, it was kind of like pretty clear that they wanted to get me. I also was like the only person who could play Flexport too, so if they get me, like they can play everything. And since we have someone Ham, I mean he can play everything too. It adds like a lot of flexibility, sort of like last year's like Florida core. I feel.
For sure. What was it? Was it an easy choice to go with the Defiant?
Yeah, 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 for 100%. There's no reason not to go. And yeah, that's basically it. I knew Cass from like last season too because yeah, well last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Now it's an interesting and weird position for you because it feels like this is your rookie season at the tier 1 level of Overwatch, but of course also tier 1 kind of changed now, but you're still in a team that's probably the most Overwatch League-esque of all the teams that are currently still around. You know, you have a facility, you're with an Overwatch League organization, and you're around literal champions, right? So does it feel like your rookie season, and how big is the difference to prior experiences you have had?
I actually would say it feels like my rookie season. Maybe if it was Overwatch League, it'd be like a little more, but um, I think there is like a skill disparity that like makes it my rookie season. But yeah, I mean, even at that, I think Define is like really close to tier one, what it was, and I think like after the end of OWCS stage one, we were like the only team playing like an Overwatch League team in NA.
Yeah, for sure. How did your day-to-day change, I guess, now in this position over, the matches that you had previously taken part in? Like, what's the difference in professionalism, quote unquote?
Uh, why? Like being on Defiant or being in
Yeah.
Toronto or
Yes, I guess, yeah.
so.
Like, I think the real defined experience is being in Toronto. Even though, to be fair, I think you only moved there this week, right?
Yeah, yeah. I moved here like 3 days ago, but I mean, being on Defiant, it was kind of like I think it was sort of similar to like Timeless, how when we had RuPaul, Hawk, Secret Lenny, we all tried really hard. But I think Defiant is definitely a lot more structured. Everyone tries just as hard. So, but yeah, you don't really get that in Contenders. There's no like structure. Coaches aren't like hard leaders, and I don't think people try and practice that much. I mean, I didn't try that much in practice in Contenders, so I think sort of how it worked.
Is it still possible to run the practice structure of like 2 to 3 blocks that Overwatch League had, or is it more challenging now given the state of the season or the scene?
We do 2 blocks most days, yeah, and sometimes even 3 blocks. We are a very hardworking team, so usually like 2 hours review and 4 hours for him, maybe 6 hours for him. And a lot of us like do play the game outside of us for him. RuPaul's behind me, he's streaming. Everyone plays ranked.
For sure. How would you say your average day to day looks like right now, or has looked like since you moved to Toronto?
Uh, I've been enjoying my off days, so I've been like, well, not on a routine, but I think day to day in Toronto, I'm probably gonna get like a routine figured out. Like, probably get breakfast, go into the facility, do whatnot, and then take a break, go back into the facility, do whatnot, and then leave, go to the gym, go back, close out the day. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna be spending a lot of time in the facility. So
For sure. Have you had any time to look around Toronto yet?
yeah, I have. I've been to not like many sightseers, but I've been to like a mall and I don't know. I mean, the main attraction of Toronto to me is like the food. I love food. So,
Sure.
yeah, I just love food a lot.
Are you rooming with anyone, or like what's the living situation?
Yeah, yeah. I'm rooming with RuPaul, so yeah, he's doing Ramadan currently, so we can't really get food in the morning. But at dinner,
For
like we
sure.
usually get dinner together and whatnot.
Sure. I think everyone sort of has an idea what it feels like to know people online and get to know them there, and then finally get to meet them in person. Is there anyone that surprised you in like how they presented themselves when you first met them?
No, I mean I've met RuPaul, I met Lenny. They're both I met them like before Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
but not any surprises there. Merritt's the same, Hammond's the same. I don't know. Everyone seems very natural in person. So
Sure. But how's the communication going with especially the Korean players? Is that an issue?
no, no. Actually, they all understand like whatever we say. Uh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they like actually perfectly understand us. The only thing is like, it's kind of funny on Merritt because sometimes Merritt's like, I'm going left, and then he slides right on Sojourn. But at the same time, it's pretty obvious because like I know what angle he wants to take because it's I don't know pretty intuitive. But
Sure.
yeah.
What about the other things where sometimes you have to coordinate? Like in the I remember, for instance, when under the old Defiant, the AT players came together and they had like different experiences from different coaching staffs, and like some had to be caught up to speed. Do you think there's like a difference in terms of like how, especially in the beginning, maybe not when you met up, but like when you first started scrimming, where the expectations, how the game is supposed to be played, were different, especially given part of it was mayhem, and then other parts coming in. Was there any difficulties syncing up there?
Maybe at the beginning, but I think it was more like a me thing. I mean, I came from contenders and like I'm learning a lot and I still am learning a lot, but I really think like having I mean we have 2 Koreans and 3 Americans and it's just like so much different team experience. Sugar Free's on Vancouver and 3 people from Florida and then Ham and Merritt also have like Korean dive experience. I think it's like a really good mix of people.
Sure,
I think having so many different ideas, once you're able to like bring those ideas together, you can really build a strong team.
for sure. And we also want to talk a little bit about how this season went, and I think one thing that sort of set the tone for this season was the rapid meta changes. That, of course, like it's just a different system. We cannot really expect to have patches aligned with important tournament points or anything. So sometimes it was quite harsh when patches were deployed, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
s- ju-
It was like it was a lot of like figuring out the meta, but we have a very flexible team, so
I think there was an interesting point that people highlighted between head coaches, I suppose. So I I recall your head coach, Kasoris, framing it sort of like an opportunity to just be better than others, be better at adapting, and just shine through skill. And then I interviewed Gunba, and he said like this is a bit of a cloud show, and it's really a dice roll. And we've heard in the past that depending on the meta, teams might be very differently strong depending on what kind of meta archetype they get to play. What do you think? Like, is Gumba's argument cope, or is it actually like a challenging thing, and there's a bit of luck to it, whether or not you're going to be good in the meta?
I think for our team, we can win in almost any meta. I think like maybe the hardest meta is like Echo Tracer meta for us, but we actually practice Echo Tracer in the off season a lot, and we got pretty good at it. So I'm not even like too worried about that. Uh, but I mean, I don't. I think for some teams it does matter the meta. Like Gumba's team, they don't have. I don't think they have a lot of flexibility in supports. For the most part. So I think depending like if the meta became on a Zen for that team on some maps, like they just can't play that. To be honest, they won't be as good as it.
Yeah, makes sense. What do you generally think? Like, I mean, you practice cross regionally with the EMEA teams. How does North America stack up against EMEA in general?
It's kind of hard to tell because of ping, but I think uh ENCE was for sure the like best out of NA, besides us. Um, Twisted Minds too, really good. SSG is they were kind of on and off. I'll be honest, like there were points where they were good and points where they were pretty bad. So
That's like the top teams. What would you say? Like, where's the level higher in which region?
I think definitely EMA. I think like overall, like their average skill is higher. Maybe like the top four EMA teams is like average skill is higher. I think
Hmm.
than the top four NA teams.
Yeah,
But the bottom EMA teams, like fourth or eight or whatever, I think they're pretty bad. Maybe worse than NA bottom, but they're both yeah.
sure. Now, another question, of course, always is how much you guys study Korea and how you think they stack up towards in comparison to the Western regions.
Um, we do watch a lot of like Korean replays and VOD. It's just like nature of like scouting, figuring out the meta. I wouldn't say they're too strong. Like I think there's like a lot of hype about it, and obviously people are gonna get like flashbacks to the old Toronto core. Like AT people were, yeah, I know, all American team. But I think with this team, like we can really beat Korea, and I don't think they look too strong. Like in double flex, they didn't look too strong, and I think some areas are behind because so some maps in Korea they would play Baps and Sigma like on King's Row. And that comp just loses to like Lucio Kiriko, but Korea was really, really, really slow to figure out that Lucio Kiri beat it. So yeah, I mean, and they adapted before them. I think maybe that's the advantage we have. We want to adapt more. They're like pretty hard stuck on metas. Like they play a lot on a brig.
It wasn't. I talked to Christopher of Space Station Gaming, and he said there might actually be a coaching gap in the Western region in the sense that it feels like Korea is not adapting at all. They are just like playing comfort picks a lot. That's why the Winston comes out, and then they just hang shake on mirror comms, and they're happy to do that. They've been happy to do that in the Overwatch League. You remember the Spark against Atlanta matchups that sort of didn't work out. Do you think there is something to that the Western regions are more willing to explore the actual meta instead of just playing comfort?
Yeah, I actually have to agree with that. I mean Koreans really like playing like on a brig and comfort picks, but I mean especially on this team, I think we just like made it pretty obvious that we don't want like one trick comp. So in Korea, I mean, they do that a lot. And obviously, last season, or maybe it's the season before last season. There's like the Junker Queen meta and then the Winston Reaper Sojourn meta that no one shifted out of. Everyone just played it.
Is there a specific guidance that you, or rather, task that you got from Kasaurus in terms of like, grinding out specific characters in order to improve in certain areas in order to increase that flexibility in some way?
Not necessarily. I think like a lot of it comes after a scrim. Maybe he'll write down like a note or something for me to fix on. I think for me like a challenge was learning Zen. He's probably my worst flex sport, but I mean, I think I got pretty good at him eventually. So
Do you think that Zen will ever be really stable again? It feels like can't.
I don't think Zen is good right now, but
Yeah,
I yeah, I really don't think. I don't think two flex has much of a place to shine on most maps, to be honest. But I think when it does, we'll be pretty good at it. And if it's ever like on a Kirika meta or like a Lari meta, I think we will be the best.
can you explain more why you think that?
I mean, I think RuPaul's really good on it. I think I'm a really good Kiriko. We play on a Kiriko, and then I think a Lari, RuPaul, Bab, me, and Lari is like top in the world for sure.
For sure, yeah. Now, I mean, you guys played under this new system. I talked to a couple of teams and how they enjoyed it. I think the general feedback was that the system is actually really good. It's sort of like just works seamlessly, especially the automation between in the Swiss rounds went pretty seamlessly. The communication is great. What was your experience like with this new system?
Oh, it's really good. We talked to like a lot of the faces staff. They would like tell us stuff, and they're always like super good with communication and being friendly. I actually have no issues with them at all. I think OWCS is also run like really great, and they're always looking for feedback. And I don't know, they've been really good to work with. I think last year contenders was also pretty good to work with, and I think maybe some of the people from last year contenders are like helping with OWCS now or something. But yeah, I know Overwatch League last year was like really bad, so guess I presume.
What kind of feedback would you relate to them? Like, what would you think? Where do you think there are improvements in terms of, ironing out a couple of kinks in this system?
I think playing the Swiss stage can get a little repetitive, and maybe they're not like they can stream more matches from the top 8 teams. I think that was the main issue, and then having a pause in game, which they're doing. So I mean, yeah, they've been really receptive. I think they might even focus on streaming the top 8 games too as well. Focus less on the Swiss stage.
What are your general thoughts about, streaming your own matches or even your scrims? What do you think there's value there, or is it too much of an infliction on, competitive integrity, or maybe like just your individual or team progress in terms of the strategies that you then are communicating to opponents?
So streaming scrims is fine if you don't have a tournament for a bit and you have no audio on. I think having the audio on is like a huge detriment. We have so many like strategies that so we can just go back in the VOD and see. Like if we play Ents, I know Gumbo will probably go back in the VOD and try to find stuff, but that's why we don't have audio, and that's why we're not gonna stream scrims when we're close to a tournament.
For
But
sure.
I think streaming matches is like whatever. If yeah, I don't think it affects most players to stream POV. So yeah, I think that's just free viewership maybe.
You seem to also have been enjoying some personal streaming, right? Is that something that you want to put some time into this season or this year?
Yeah. I think it's a good habit to build, and it sort of like motivates me to keep playing. Definitely want to try to stay as clocked in as I can for this season.
For sure, for sure. Now, I guess as a last subject, there have been a couple of patches out, and I mean, some of them were received controversially, some of them were really liked. What do you think, like generally, how good is the game right now?
Uh, I think all the changes they've made have been really good. I don't know if you remember, but when they first announced like self healing, a lot of people were like, "No, don't add this." I feel like I was one of the first, like the few people who really wanted self healing, like for everyone. But no, I think all the changes have been great. I think people are too like stuck on the passive Overwatch. Like you see people arguing 6v6 versus 5v5, and I just think it's a dumb argument to make. But I do think the game has been growing actually a lot more. So
Is it? Would you sign the statement that this is the best Overwatch has ever been?
yeah, for a while, yeah, for sure.
Do you?
Maybe beginning of Overwatch 1 was a little better, but it's also a lot of like just ideas behind it. But definitely like after 2 years of Overwatch 1, when the game started going downhill and Goats was meta, and then ever since then, beginning of Overwatch 2 was pretty good. And then I think it's at its peak right now, probably for gameplay.
Can you explain your reasoning why you like the regeneration passives?
I think just not having to rely on your teammates is pretty good, and it's not gonna like it's not a game changer. It's just a quality of life change. I really think it's just a quality of life change. I think especially the HP changes, not getting one shot by everyone, it's just good. It's like I think League of Legends is something similar. They had a durability patch a while ago. Um, at least like that, the game just got better. Not getting one shot for the smallest mistakes adds a lot more variables into the game.
Sure. Now we just got a new content injection in the form of a hero, and those are always exciting times, especially when the hero is good. What do you think about Venture?
Uh, I'm actually not sure. I've seen her in quick play. I played her, but I think it's hard to tell if she will be good. She seems pretty good at like killing tracers, and she seems really durable. So maybe there is a chance like maybe Brawl becomes meta, like more Maga, Ram style comps, and I think maybe Venture can shine a lot in those. But I think a lot of maps like Dorado and these flanker maps, like it will be hard to gut out Tracer from being meta.
For sure, yeah. What do you think? Where do they like which type of DPS should be playing that hero?
Flex CPS, I think. I think Lenny Sugarfree will be playing it a lot. Uh I think it's kind of hard to say. It kind of reminds me of like when you'd play with a Mei or Doomfist in Overwatch 1. So usually you play cast Mei or cast Doomfist when you're playing Reinhardt Diva. I think that's where I think Doomfist are based where the role that Venture plays. So
For sure. But do you have any forecasts if they will be meta as soon as they are eligible in either OWCS or Face It League?
uh no, I'm really not sure. It's hard to tell because I think you really have to see in like a scrim organized environment. The only question is, does Tracer shit on Venture? And if Tracer shits on Venture, then Tracer's meta. Maybe also Venture just loses to like a lot of comps. You know, it has like a lot of big weaknesses. I guess it's not as versatile.
Are you concerned at all that the ultimate might be not as much of a power play as other DPS ultimates?
Oh yeah, I think their ultimate is pretty shit. So I can't get their shields right. I'm pretty sure I can't. So I'm
Yeah,
thinking
I
like
think you're right.
a lot of these brawl comps like Maga or not Maga, like Ramatra, shield, I think Ramatra will probably be played because he has a shield to block the ult. Like the ult is useless, but there's a shield. I think the ult is just pretty bad in general. But maybe in rush comp it's actually pretty good. Because everyone's like stacked, you get like a 5-man earthquake. Just think the Ram shield or even a Reinhardt shield could really mess with it.
Sure. Now you got a couple of days before the start of stage 2. Did you take a break at all, or what's the future going to near future going to look like?
Yeah, I had like a or a 3-day like break pretty much. I streamed like a tiny bit, but that was it. But I think today, tomorrow, and for the future I'm gonna lock in and do my routine. But yeah, we definitely had a pretty good break.
Sweet. Then we wish you the best of luck in preparation for stage 2, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you.